month, or this is what I'm talking about. Our entire philosophy, the philosophy of New Thought and all of its different movements began as a way of physical healing. There, back in the 1800s, there were some pretty, what we would consider barbaric methods that they thought would actually heal people. And those methods didn't. And as a result of that, there were a lot of people who were either dying of consumption, oftentimes having other types of physical ailments that they could not get any help with. And so, in one sense, our faith tradition was born of the need to help make people physically whole. And I like to remember that. And so see, here's the thing. In order for the possibility of physical healing to occur, we have to be willing to see things or know things can be different than what modern medicine tells us they are. And so my whole goal this month is to sort of poke holes in our common current paradigm, because something amazing happens when the state of what's called cognitive dissonance is created. It actually creates a space for newness to come in, for new possibility to come in, for, in this case, physical healing to come in. But this is true no matter what. It doesn't matter if it's a job that needs to come in, a romance that needs to come in, a beautiful trio that needs to be birthed, any of those things. We gotta crack our current understanding of the world. So that's all I'm about this month, and it's actually been really fun for me. Last week we looked at the idea that light is both particle and wave and some of the implications of that. I want to tell you some things that might appear to be random about what appears to be some random people. Mark and Jamal are both in a room. Mark is burning up. He's sweating profusely, just dripping sweat, and complaining that it's hot. Jamal hasn't broken a sweat. He's fine. Annie and Scott are in a room. Annie is left-handed and Scott is right-handed. Neela and Bihan are in a room. Neela's resting heart rate is 82. Bihan's resting heart rate is 55. Bumper and Maggie are in a room. Bumper wears glasses, Maggie does not. Jenna and Abigail are in a room. Jenna has track marks because she's a recovering drug addict and used IV drugs. Abigail does not. Stephanie and Kate are in a room. Stephanie wears size shoe 7.5, Kate wears a 9. Here's the thing about those people. In all of those cases, they're all the same person, a person with dissociative identity disorder, multiple personalities. Shoe size, reaction to heat, left-handed, right-handed, resting heart rate, visual acuity, scars or no scars, actual measurable shoe size. Different for different personalities living in the same body, the same body. Measurable. Kid named Sammy, severely allergic to orange juice, but Marcus, Beth, Steve, and Ramsey, his other personalities in this same person, not allergic to orange juice. So Sammy can drink orange juice, break out in hives, and then after what they call the switch, which is the switch from one personality to another, happens, the hives disappear. When Sammy comes back, the hives come back with Sammy. kind of a trip. We think about the body as solid. We think about the body as solid, and it is just not true. We think about things as fixed, and they're just not true. And the thing is, there's a lot of bad information out there. I really had to do a lot of digging this week, and I ended up using as a source the National Institute's mental health page, and then following links on researchers from there. And so I'm giving you good information. How can it be? Kids. Now you know what we were all looking at you like. You're looking at me like, huh? And you guys were singing, and we're all like, Right. So things are possible. Actually, we all intellectually know, or spiritually know, or claim to know that all things are possible with God. And yet, when push comes to shove, especially if it has to do with us, we forget that this stuff that we think of as real is real, but not as solid as we think it is. And here's what's a trip. There's actually a ton of good, solid, empirical research about parapsychology, psi phenomenon, all those types of things. Things that tell us that this billiard ball universe, that, you know, this material event causes this material event causes this material event. There is a ton of research that shows how limited and wrong that is. The problem is, well, there are several problems. See, once we get into the habit of thinking this way, and this applies to all scientific inquiry, once we think that A causes B causes C causes D, then A, that's what we look for, and B, when presented with information that conflicts with what the existing paradigm is, nobody wants to talk about that. And the reason that nobody wants to talk about it is A, they don't want to look like a fool. And B, if you're an academic and you want to study something, you'll never get a job if you say, well, I think this might be possible. The good news is that there are a handful of people. I'm going to give you some names if this is the kind of stuff that's interesting to you. I'm going to go ahead and give you the names up front, just so you know. There's a physician by the name of Larry Dawsey. He's written several books, so a lot of y'all probably know about him. There is a fellow by the name of Jeffrey Mishlove, M-I-S-H-L-O-V-E. And I had the privilege of having him as an instructor in one of my ministerial school classes. He is the only man with a degree, a PhD in parapsychology, and it's from UC Berkeley. And then there's another guy with a PhD by the name of Dean Radin, and he's written a lot of books. Worked at Princeton, the University of Las Vegas, Bell Laboratories, highly esteemed, and very much living in that place where he's catching a lot of flack from the establishment, and he's also catching a lot of flack from what I would say the extremes of the metaphysical community, because what all of these gentlemen do is say, look, this stuff, we can actually research it. We haven't yet, but we're going to find out how to do it, and we're going to do it. And all three of them have dedicated their careers, a great deal of which is research, to breaking open the current materialist paradigm. So I want to tell you about Dean Radin's his most recent book. It's a book called Supernormal, and it came out a couple of years ago. He's written a bunch of fascinating books, but this is the most recent. In the introduction to the book, he says, the term supernormal was coined by the British classicist Frederick Myers, one of the founders of the London-based Society for Psychical Research in 1882. Myers used this word to refer to natural, lawful phenomena that presaged a more advanced future stage of human evolution. In the future, according to Meyer's conception, as we gain an improved understanding of ourselves, our capacities, and the physical world, the supernormal will become completely normal. So I like to think of us as part of the exploration team for finding out what the future normal human might be like. What actually can we influence in our bodies and each other? What are we capable of? We're part of the research team that's doing that field work. And thank goodness we've got some guys on our team that are taking a very, very academic approach to this. So I want to tell you a little bit about some research that Dean Radin did back in the mid and late 90s. Actually, it was all through the central part of the 90s when he was at the University of Las Vegas. They wanted to see if well, let me back up. How many of you have heard of the Maharishi effect? Right? Okay, so the Maharishi effect is, and you've probably heard of some of the studies, you get a bunch of people praying for a certain, in this case it was New York City, the one that made the most press, right? To see if they could affect the crime rate, right? And they were able to do that, but unfortunately it was a very poorly designed study. And of course, when you have a poorly designed study, you have a lot of room for the naysayers to kind of say, well, you did that wrong, you did this wrong, you did that wrong. And so Dr. Radin wanted to do something in a little bit more controlled environment, so he spent a good part of the 90s actually doing that. And what he did, it's really hard to describe, but he took a random number generator, because that's not a person, so that eliminates a lot of things. And a random number generator, as you might be able to guess, generates random numbers, right? So they set up this random number generator at the University of Las Vegas, and then they, for the 1996 Olympics, the 1995 Academy Awards, and I think the 94 and 95 Academy Awards, what they did, because they knew they would have a bunch of people focused on these events, right? Lots of people watching TV. So they decided they were going to watch the random number generator to see if it became less random while people were focusing on these widespread TV events. And what they found was I'm trying to think of how to describe this in layman's language, that there was a decrease in the amount of randomness, statistically significant decrease in the amount of randomness when people were focused on a TV screen that were all watching the same event. So you think, well, what does that mean? What's the big deal there? The big deal there is that Jung thought about this, Einstein thought about this, many people thought about this, and what they realized is that when many people focus on one thing, it brings order out of chaos, out of randomness. Right, so in this case, it was just a random number generator that was starting to show an ordered pattern when people were focused on a completely unrelated event. So what might be possible if everybody in this room, say, were focused on, I don't know, healing Ocean Femi's toe or ankle? If we were actually focused on the thing that we wanted to see more order come out of. You see, if you can do this kind of stuff on a random number generator on an unrelated topic at a distance, what is possible when we focus with right attention on each other? What becomes possible when we focus with right attention on our families? And by right attention, I mean finding the good and praising it. Instead of looking out into my family or into the world going, well, this sucks, this sucks, this sucks, what if I habitually find the good and praise it? What's happening then? Third thing, that's not completely unrelated to the second point. I know I mentioned this last week. How many of y'all know what quantum non-locality is? We've got a handful of nerds in here. So quantum non-locality obviously comes from quantum theory, and this has been replicated and validated in reliable ways so many times it's beyond question. Basically what it says is if you have two units of matter in correlation, like they're close to each other, right? That once they've been close to each other, forevermore, they will spin in tandem. Forever. Now, not only that, it's not like this one starts spinning, this one gets the call and starts spinning too. It actually happens at the same time, instantaneously, with absolutely no communication and no causal relationship between the two. It just happens. You know how freaky that is? So what if everyone I came across every day was forevermore affected by my spin? Forever. For all of eternity. That the energetic imprint that I leave everywhere I go is like a ripple on a pond. And actually, it's not like a ripple on a pond because that's sort of mechanical. Michael's going, that's right. Right? Everywhere I go, my energetic imprint stays with not just the people, it just stays everywhere. Everywhere. My energetic imprint stays. What does that mean for the way that I walk around in the world? What if we combine these two things, this quantum non-locality thing and this idea that you can actually bring order to something, to a system that is inherently disordered or intentionally disordered. So what if we bring those two things together? And I'm going to go back and use your ankle, Ocean Femi. I'm going to go back and use Ocean Femi's ankle. She has a problem with her ankle or foot, one of the two sometimes. And I'm sorry, I should have asked your permission.
No, please.
Okay.
Because I'm going to focus.
Let's all, right, okay, right? So what if the thing that I do when I see Ocean Femi's, this thing's going on, and I'm real focused on how dysfunctional it is? You got to wonder. But now, like, what if everybody in this room, every time we think of Ocean Femi right now for the next, I don't know, how long? A couple of weeks. What if every time you think of Ocean Femi and once you get past her absolutely radiant beauty, you think about her perfectly whole ankle? What might be possible then? See, the thing is, we just have to open up that thing a little bit. You know, the whole doubting Thomas, right? I'm not going to believe it until I see it. But you know, sometimes you gotta. The converse has to be true. You gotta believe it when you see it, right? And so your assignment this week, I just want to give you an assignment. Is to let the phrase, what if, be with you every day. Oh, Shufemi's ankle were perfect. What if racism could be healed? What if there were enough for everyone? What if I deserve to prosper? What if? Because all we're trying to do here is bust apart our certainty and give God a chance to work. So here's the thing that I want to remind everybody, that these people called practitioners, or the people who have been trained to pray, that's actually what they do. They sit and they see the wholeness of you, and they continue to see the wholeness of you. And it stays with not only you, but with them. Right? And so if you have not yet grabbed somebody who is trained to pray, please do it. Because you want to be part of the field testing, right? You want to, we're on the exploration team, we're on the research team. We actually want to be doing our part. I think I feel finished. How am I doing on time? Oh, good. All right, let's pray. Thank you, Brad. So I'm reminded that it behooves us to be very, very careful about what we're certain of. And I'm reminded of something that Ernest Holmes said, that it only takes 51% of our thoughts, beliefs, feelings, and attitudes to shift. We don't have to go the whole way. That as soon as we begin to just open the door just a little bit, the possibilities for wholeness and dream building and families and relationships and better jobs and a world that works for everyone become more real. They become more imminent. And that truth that we glance at from a distance every once in a while, it begins to come toward us and bubble up from us and move around us and emanate from us. So right here, right now, I am claiming that each person in this room is picking up the tools, every single tool available, to open up to what is possible. What if I could do that? What if we could do that? What if that could be that way? And I know that when we just crack the door, all that is good and all that is God and all that is holy meets us right there and walks us all the